1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Lay It on the Table, the Southern Board Game Podcast with the accent on Southern. After a brief hiatus, I am your host, one of your hosts anyway, Joe Mahaffey.
And I'm your other host, James Engelhardt. Joe, it's good to be back in the seats talking to each other again.
It is good to be back in the seats. And as I explained a little bit earlier in a little precursor, folks, my mom passed away on February 22nd. And we did the funeral yesterday, which is the time of this recording was March 29th, because we had a lot of stuff to do and get family here and stuff. And so I appreciate your patience as we had to take a brief, unexpected, well, maybe not unexpected, but brief hiatus. 92 and a half years old and
a good run.
Good run. Yeah. So had the funeral yesterday and now we're on to the next chapter in our lives where I just tell people I'm an orphan now.
Yeah, it's fair.
No.
I had my cousins who were like, "Oh yeah, that's I guess that's our status now, huh?"
Yeah. But anyway, enough about that. This is not a podcast about Joe's family. This is a podcast about what?
Tabletop games, board games in particular. Yeah. Well, no, actually, we kind of do them all, don't we?
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's probably a ton of stuff that went on in the news in the 5-6 weeks we were off.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that the most notable one to me was Hasbro scrapping Project Sigil.
I saw that, yeah.
Virtual tabletop, which I was very pleased to see that.
That they scrapped it?
Yeah, because I mean, as cool as I thought it could be when we were in the middle of the pandemic, the more I thought about it, I mean, it was, cool from a technology standpoint and
Sure.
areas of effect but I think there are platforms out there that give you that in a much more meaningful way. Foundry VTT is one of my favorites, which is open source and it's built by the community and it's not limited to 5e. It opens itself up to a lot of different games and I really think that organically that's really where the market may very well go in that kind of play.
That makes sense.
But I also think they want everything to be Baldur's Gate. And the tabletop is not Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is a video game.
Well, and it seemed like from the article that you linked to that there was a fair bit of misalignment of vision, particularly at the level where people wanted it to be Baldur's Gate, and the others who were thinking, no, we want this to be just a super cool thing for people playing D&D and to bring them to D&D specifically. And yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you can't buy your way into a new technology. I mean, when they, if you think about Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast and all these things, I mean, they had the lady from Microsoft that was the president for a while, and it was under, I believe it was under her tutelage that they bought D&D Beyond. And I think I think buying D&D Beyond was a really good move. I think, some companies do a really good job of assimilating purchases.
Right.
And some don't. And my sense is, just from an outside observer, I'm not a professional business analyst or anything like that. My sense is that they did a poor job. I've seen really good acquisitions take place where the acquisition keeps their brand name. The acquisition basically has their way of running their core product left alone, and the efficiencies are made on like back office kind of things like payroll and HR and accounts receivable and payables, etc. And then they wait until they kind of figure out the right kind of on-ramp to assimilate. But I don't know for a fact, but when you see the product that they launched at Gen Con as sort of a teaser and how poorly it went, and the fact that they're laying off 90% of their development staff.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the idea, is you need to have that leader and everybody aligns behind that. And then, as you were pointing out, they get the savings on the other parts of it, but you do this thing. And they clearly never felt like they were going to be doing that thing.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder because I noticed, I don't know, sometime during our hiatus, my D&D Beyond subscription renewed. It's like
Yeah.
$60 a year or whatever it is. Um, and I'm almost afraid to cancel it now because of all the content that I have stored up there. I don't know if I
Right.
lose that, and I think that's okay. They got me.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if I go forward and I never feel like I'm going to run a campaign with D&D Beyond at the core of it, I'd let it go.
Sure.
Sunk cost. I'm sure that I'm sure there's something in their terms of service that I didn't read because nobody reads those.
True.
And it's possible that I read the terms of service when it was D&D Beyond Inc.
Right.
Probably revised those TOSs. Not that they would ever revise any legal document without drawing attention to it.
Right.
Um,
Ha 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 ha.
so, my sense is that, my next campaign will probably be done on Foundry. And I'll try to figure out a way to migrate content. There are some tools you can use to migrate your D&D Beyond content.
I would expect, yeah.
Other avenues like Foundry. So I might pursue that. I don't know. It really wasn't on my mind until, and guys, in addition to the Gizmodo article that we're going to publish, you can certainly go to YouTube and just type in Sigil VTT, and there are a myriad of YouTubers, our friend Professor Dungeon Master to everybody else talking about it. So we don't need to get deep in the weeds on their pieces. But I can say this as somebody who's actively involved in technology and software development. This is a move where, they're abandoning the project.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other 10% are going to do. Maybe shut down the servers. I don't know. Or just maintain D&D Beyond. But it's not the kind of thing where you can just bring in AI and have AI do the coding for you.
No.
There's a whole thing now called vibe coding.
Okay.
Where you're really a good prompter.
Okay.
Telling the AI how to write the software you want. I don't think they can do that if they've just laid off 90% of the staff.
That seems like a deep cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the we're just leaving somebody behind to sweep up and turn off the lights.
Or just maintain what they got. I mean, D&D Beyond's got hurt.
Fair, but yeah.
And to my knowledge, there is not some sort of a class action lawsuit happening against Hasbro for the way they're treating D&D Beyond.
I would imagine not.
Not saying that there couldn't be, but again, that goes back to the whole terms of service thing.
Right.
So, which I haven't read, not a lawyer, not suggesting it, not promoting it. Just keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah.
I'll let other people do that, and I'll
continues
just
it. Yeah.
sure
Chain continues. Yeah.
The win, Anyway, okay, so that was only the board game news I saw. I don't know what you saw, James.
Nope, I'm good with that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on with tariffs and all of these crazy things, but
well, it's funny
that has yet to be sorted out. Yes.
Well, no, it's interesting. I've had a couple of Kickstarters kind of say, "Hey, we're getting a little hit on the tariff here. You might need we need 10 more bucks."
Okay.
So I've seen it hit just because of the cost of shipping on cargo.
Oh, yeah.
China.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter bought a house in Durham, or a townhome.
Nice.
And she was so nice to me. She let me buy her a refrigerator, which we decided to buy before April 2nd.
Good choice.
So to avoid any
undue markups,
tariff trickery.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Odds are it was already in the United States. They probably shouldn't raise the price on it if it's already sitting in their house.
Oh, but that happens.
Oh, I know it happens. The price of a barrel of oil goes up.
First thing that happens.
Raise the gas prices, even though it hasn't hit their supply chain yet. Come on.
Hasn't even gone through. Yep. Refining. Nope. Yeah.
You got any eggs in your house? Sorry, we will need to move on. This kind of podcast.
It's not. Yeah.
Not that kind of podcast. Okay.
No.
So, James,
we've got some games. Yeah.
We got some games.
Woohoo.
So I've been doing a lot of talking here. Why don't you talk about what has been on your table?
All right.
But folks, before we get into it, we both have a number of games. We're going to focus on one game in particular, kind of refer to the others, and maybe in future episodes we will, not maybe, definitely in future episodes we'll talk perhaps a little bit more about some of those. So
some of these, yeah.
Now that I said I was going to stop talking, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'll take over then. This is, and you can sort of see for those if you've got a visual on this. This is It's a Wonderful World, which is continuing my tradition of the fully baked as opposed to the fresh, the hotness. This has been around for a while.
Hmm.
Um, this came out at a game night fairly recently, and it's have you played this one, Joe?
I have not. I've seen
Okay,
it.
yeah,
Seen it in my favorite local game store.
there you go.
That's very friendly.
Yes, and I sometime we'll get over there. So this is a fun little game. It's a not that little. It's a fairly substantial box, but it's really mostly cards and a little bit of areas you need to get resources. But it's a card drafting game, and and it's that's the one part of the game that actually takes up a lot of time. Everything else happens just simultaneously. So it's kind of like Seven Wonders in that way, where you start with a stack of cards, pass them around, pick one, and pick and pass until you have a bunch of cards.
Right.
But with It's a Wonderful World here, you're not really interacting with your neighbors quite so much, right? Because in Seven Wonders, you can buy things from them. You have to go to war against them, so you're leveraging all of that, thinking about that. But this is more just keep your head down, solve an efficiency puzzle. You can do a bit of hate drafting if you're really paying attention, but you've got so many cards that give you so much, it's hard to really hard target somebody. So it's but what makes the game compelling, besides the whole puzzly aspects, if you like puzzles, this is the way to do it. Is that you have to decide, and this is different from Seven Wonders too. If you're going to build that card and build it into the building that it is by fulfilling, there's a resource recipe on there. You've seen these like, oh look, it's the 2 blues and 2 greens and a yellow, hooray! And in the game they have names for these things, but really it's just 2 blues, 2 greens, yellow. So you do that, and some of them have lots of recipe, and you can hold those for a couple of turns. Some of them are just very short. Or you discard it to get a resource. So it has a little resource on there, and you're like, do I want to build this thing or do I want to burn this to get the resource? So that's your first choice. And then there's also a resource generation phase. So some of those buildings give you resources, and they build immediately. And so, if you start with the grays and the next one's the blues, and in the gray phase, you build a blue building, then poof, you get more blue stuff. So you're kind of trying to think about how that might happen. So you get these fantastic little cascades that kind of come through. And there's this moment generally toward the end where like, oh, the greens go first. Ah, damn it. And you have these whole deep regrets. But it all starts with am I going to build this card? Am I going to burn it for the resource? And you always want to build the card, but you have to have the resource. And so it's a nice tension there. Some of the cards don't just give you resources. Some of them give you points. So you really want to build those buildings. You've got one resource and you got, yay, for every one of these, you get a point. If you get another building that gives you, now you get 2 points, 3 points. Now you're on your way to winning something. But the nice thing about it is it's also quick. So all those tense decisions are really just as you're passing things around. You're kind of making your mind up as you go, hoping you remember what you've decided. So you've got these great decisions. You're looking how to be efficient in points and resources. The game goes quickly. There's only 4 rounds, so you don't have a lot of space to maneuver either, right? You're thinking, okay, this thing has like 10 things on it to fulfill the recipe. How am I ever going to get that? But so maybe you leave that one just hoping that it'll pay off toward the end. So anyway, it goes quickly. It's really nice. And then really it's just mostly the cards. Shuffle it up, do it again. I think we played 4 players and we were done in 45 minutes, and 2 of the players had never played it before. So with the rules teach and everything else, just clipped along. So
It's interesting when in looking at it in BGG, it says 1 to 5 player, best with 4. And 5-minute playing time. So you did exactly what it said on the tin.
Yep, it was really good. And this is designed by Frédéric Guérard. I always like to do the end of the French thing. Frédéric Guérard and Anthony Wolf does this fantastic art over there. La Boîte de Jeu and a bunch of other people publish it. And it's still around. I think it's got some love. And I think part of it is it does have these really tasty decisions that just kind of make you feel, "Gah!" But it's a nice, particularly for a gamery kind of game, it feels like a light filler, but only if you're used to playing a lot of these kinds of games, right?
Yeah, no, I mean it's clearly available in all the proper retail outlets, not just
Hmm.
aftermarket. And there's some really solid how to plays on game night and Geek TV,
Hmm.
how to get through it. So
Yeah,
uh,
and it's got 21,000 ratings on Board Game Geek, and so people clearly had something to say and some thoughts about it, so that's a good thing.
well, and I know since I think it came out in 2021, and I've seen it recently
Hmm.
in the stores. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
No,
that's
it's still hanging on, yeah. And I think for obvious, and I mean, if you wanted to take this thing on the road, um, you could ditch the box, just grab the cards, and the board is kind of this little tiny folded thing, or you just mash it together, and then bags of pieces, and you could easily fit that in a backpack, and away you go. So,
yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit about packing up games.
oh yes,
The trip we took while we were on hiatus. So I'll get to that in a minute.
right. So yeah, so that was It's a Wonderful World. I mean, it's no surprise, clearly looking at everything, that it's got some wonderful attention to it. The only real trouble is trying to keep yourself from singing that song the whole time.
Yeah, I was, resisting that urge as you were explaining it, by the way.
Yeah, now it gets in there. It's like Ticket to Ride. You kind of.
But the cover is interesting because the way you describe the game versus if I was reading a book by its cover or judging a book by its cover, it doesn't really look like it would be exactly the way you said it would.
So, and it's kind of hilarious, because the buildings that you're building are sometimes, or it's a cultural thing, or you're building alien technology. You're like, okay, this just gives me green resources. Awesome. The theme drifts away very quickly, which are like, oh, you're building entertainment centers. And you're like, really? It's just two
Like
grays and a black or whatever.
like I like
Yeah.
I entertainment centers.
But yeah. So it's and the you've got war and capitalism. And so yeah, but that just kind of you're just like, I need the red lady chips, or I need the blue dude chips, and
There you go.
that's yeah, and people are just moving those around to get points from them. And it's yeah, it's the theme is, yeah, flimsy, but the gameplay is good. So um and I mean, in some ways you can feel the civilization when you're doing Seven Wonders, that you're actually feel like you're putting together the little bits of mud and stone technology that you've got to do to build,
Right.
the Tower of Babel or something. But this one, not so much. But again, moves quick. Um, yeah, and those decisions are again quite tasty.
Cool.
Yeah.
You played it recently, or this was a while back, or
Ooh, I want to say 2, 3 weeks ago, so not too far, not too
okay.
long ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and played it. I played it a couple times. Played it for the game night. Had when Sky was here. Played that with her, and
Sure.
so it's yeah. I mean, the thing that can happen is, what happens so many times with those pick and pass games is, I picked mine. I picked mine. Oh wait, somebody hasn't. Wait, I've looked at this. Wait, which one are these? Which cards are these? Which are how
Mhm.
many cards does everybody have in front of them? Okay, slow it down, people. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so tracking which round, which hand you have, and where it's going is always the
Yeah, it's always
yeah.
easy to get lost when you're trying to do that.
Seven Wonders, Sushi Go. Yeah, I have 6 cards in front of me. I only have 3. Why do you only have 3? Why do you have 6? I don't know. Yeah, these conversations happen.
We had a couple of games like that recently, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, maybe it was you, maybe it was me. I tell you what, either you take one up or I'll put one down. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
So you want to dive into the one that you want to do a deep dive in, and then we can bounce back and forth on the smaller ones?
yeah, I think that'd be great. So
Awesome.
first of all, I'll let you know. So Dale and I, while we were on the hiatus, one of the things we did was we went to the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
And I packed up my ATA bag of games, and although the one I'm about to talk about I did not take, I did take its mothership, the Wingspan.
Oh, yes.
And then we had a good time teaching on that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But no, so the last time we were available to talk, I talked a little bit about teasing FinSpan that I'd gotten it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dale and I actually got it on the table, and we've played it a few times. And first of all, reinforcing the motif that if the species can lay eggs, you can pretty much make a game out of it.
Yeah, right.
No, but we have found this game to be very enjoyable. A game, the gameplay is, they is as it is attributed to Samuel Clemens, the world famous Mark Twain. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. It's attributed to him. I don't know if that's accurate, but I'll just say attributed. Anyway, you know how Wormspan has a more complex gameplay that kind of fixes some of the I don't want to call them defects, but opportunities of the base game of Wingspan. We'll call it that. The opportunity.
Sure.
And I think FinSpan does it a little bit differently. Because as you start, so there's a couple different things of currency. Okay, you have your cards. And the cards work very similar like the cards in the other games. You can use you get resources to get the cards out, or you get the cards out, or the cards can consume cards, or there's certain things you have to have in place. And the deeper you go and are able to put fish out, the more resources and the more benefits you can get. So sort of like in Wormspan, where you can go deeper in the cave if you unlock some things. This has that element, but it's a little bit easier to unlock.
Okay.
And so what you're doing is you're sending divers down, or you're getting cards. You're sending divers down, and depending upon where you have a card, that's how they can go they can go deep, but they can't get benefits if you don't have a card there. Okay.
That tracks.
Then there's typically a benefit at the bottom of each of the tracks. There's 3 tracks that you can only get once per round. So there's that component. But what's interesting, though, is unlike other games of this variety, your board automatically puts out some fish and some eggs on the board. Everybody gets a couple of eggs and maybe a fish. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get eggs. You're trying to get the eggs to become fish and the fish to become schools. And, you have the ability to move things around. So there's just a lot of things to it. And, of course, the artwork's amazing.
Sure.
So it really is I personally think it plays a little faster than Wingspan.
Okay.
Because you can still be thinking about what you're going to do next and not worry about what your player is doing. And you don't have that barrier of, are the resources that I'm going to need going to be available in the bird feeder?
Right.
So it kind of eliminates some of that.
That is one of the challenges from, yeah.
And, Stonemeyer's done a really nice job of laying out here are the cards and the rewards and around rewards you should be starting with. And then as you learn the game, you have other options. And so you can make it a little bit more complex. But overall, I mean, it's, it's definitely a Wingspan product. 45.
Part of the Spaniverse. Yeah.
We'll call it the Spaniverse. I like that. Yeah. So, and you can really, I love the fact too that it stays true to the, obviously Wormspan was cool because it ministered to that love of dragons, but playing this in the ecological sense where you have birds and you have the fish, because I think I commented last time, and I know she did it with a different publisher, but when the butterfly thing, I thought, well, that could have been an interesting kind of thing.
Yeah.
Spiders lay eggs, right?
I was going to say the Spider-Verse. Oh wait, no, that's a different IP. Sorry.
And friend of the show, theme songwriter Mr. Keener is afraid of spiders, so we could have fun with that.
Oh, hey, cool, yeah. I think fish don't generally inspire the sort of terror.
Well, there's some fish in there. There's some apex predators.
Oh yeah. But they don't generally. I mean, you can avoid the water.
Fair.
Spiders can be anywhere.
But it's interesting. I mean, so I have the game Oceans.
Ah, okay.
And in FinSpan, the gameplay is completely different than Ocean.
Right.
And the whole, but in terms of, I always talk about Wingspan as a gateway game. It's got complexities, but once you teach it, once you get somebody through the first round, they generally catch on very quickly.
Yeah.
I don't recall Oceans being that accessible, but I think
that's right.
But I think FinSpan is far more accessible in the tradition of a Spanoverse game. And I think Wormspan has an audience for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the Wing and the Fin broaden that audience significantly.
Yeah, it felt like the dragon theme was really about fantasy people who really like, nope, birds, who cares? But set me up with dragons, and people really jumped on that, and they're still jumping on that. But
I think Flamecraft helped it.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense. And this, I think you're right, is there's a whole bunch of people. The reason, Hargrave did Wingspan to begin with was I don't want to deal with fantasy tropes. So it's nice to see this kind of, as you're saying, come back to this. Here are some very interesting animals that have a great deal of variety. So you're going to be able to do all kinds of different things with them should you wish to expand on this. So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility here.
Well, if you look at it at bgg.com, it says, designer David Gordon and Michael O'Connell, artist Henry Martinez, Jaramillo. Oh, no, that's a new one. No, that's the first name.
Jaramillo, yeah. Ana Maria Martinez Jaramillo, yeah.
And Mesa Schumacher. This has been pronunciation. But it's you don't see Hargraves on here, but it's licensed. It's like it's licensed by her almost,
right?
Which again, I think it's a smart move because fundamentally she's created a culture of gameplay that lends itself to a lot of different skins, as we've many times. But anyway, it's from my perspective, it's been a really nice game. We've enjoyed it. We continue to get out of it what we hoped we would. So
good.
We did not take it with us.
Ah, right. Well, looks like there's a fair number of more bits than you would want to travel with.
Well, we have a travel version of Wingspan, and when I say the travel version, what that means is it has none of the bits in it. It's just the base game, and the latest versions, if you go to a Target or Amazon or even your local game store, is not the original printing. So there's more cardboard in there than plastic.
Okay.
So even the box that you put the cards in is more a cardboard mold.
Yep.
And so it's more ecologically friendly. It's probably lower cost to produce for the reprint as well.
Yeah. And
it travels really, really well.
Awesome.
But when you hear some of the other games we took, it had nothing to do with the bits.
Okay.
So anyway. So yeah, FinSpan, I think it's a game. It's we've enjoyed it, and it's a lot of fun. And what's really striking to me is how few people that I expect to know about this don't know about it. And the reason I say that is obviously I keep Wingspan and Wormspan up here behind me.
I see them. Ooh, dramatic camera movement there. Yeah, that's good.
This I hit the remote. I got it back. But the thing about it is that when I work and I'm on meetings like WebEx or Teams or what have you, I always get a comment about the games behind me. And most times people have used Wingspan and they're not familiar with Wormspan. And when I bring up FinSpan, and I have a good friend who I work with who lives up in Toronto, and he and his wife are both big gamers, and he had not yet heard of FinSpan, and I was just surprised.
Wow.
He hadn't heard about it yet. So I felt I had done my part.
Well done, sir. I mean, I think it's interesting if you're I'm a fairly heavy consumer of tabletop media. So I hear about this stuff pretty quickly, and so yeah, I always wonder, like, how do you, if you're not talking to me, like, how do you get somebody else's attention? Anyway, yeah.
Well, it's like, I think I heard about FinSpan because I'm on the mailing list. I just got to think about Takedo.
Exactly. Takedo, yeah.
Takedo. That's April 2nd. That's going to be, Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
That'll come on if I read that right.
Nice.
Anyway, I will just say this last thing about this, and then we'll kind of go back in the back and forth. I took Friday off because the funeral was Saturday, and I needed a day, and
Yeah.
I decided that I needed to get out on the bike because I was still writing Mom's eulogy, and sometimes just getting out with no podcast in my ears and just riding the 15 miles that I typically do was a good way to kind of really organize my thoughts, and then I was able to kind of go and finish the job. But as I got to the James K. Polk home site, which is where I get on the Greenway in Pineville, North Carolina,
Not a sponsor.
not a sponsor. In fact, they need our help more than we need theirs. Unless you just, anyway. There was a lady there getting her bike out, and she was, older than us.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, just friendly chit chat. And somehow, she had a B shirt on.
Ah, nice.
And so I was telling her about Honey Buzz.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, and then we started talking about Wingspan, which is a game she was very familiar with, which was just kind
Nice.
of have that conversation. And there have been a few times on the Greenway where I've just seen people out bird watching, and I'll stop and I'll ask them if they know about the game.
Nice.
Not tell them about the game because they might already know and they don't need, me to mansplain it.
Right. I frequently stop if anybody's got a board game in hand or a shirt or something. I will say, "Oh, hey," and Laura, my wife, finds this sort of bizarre, but I'm like, "No, it's good."
So I know I said that was going to be
Here
the
we
last thing I said, but I lied. I'm going to say one more thing. So
Okay.
we went to the Dominican Republic. It was a company-based trip. Won't get into all that. And they always have a bag of things in your room.
Ah, okay. Nice.
And the company does. It's like a welcome, a thank you card, or a congratulations card. You got to go on the trip, and here's some desserts and whatever. And in there was a box. It was a wooden box that had the company logo on it. And I slid it open, and there was a deck of cards and a bunch of wooden dominoes.
Ah, well, that's nice.
And so we have my company has a whole team of people that really are the event coordinators of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, by any chance, did that end up in there because you guys knew I was going to bring board games? And they kind of gave me a wily smile and said, might have had something to do with
it. Could have done. Nice.
Anyway. Okay. So that's enough about that. So tell me about what else you've been kind of playing in our time apart.
So another one, and this one I had never seen before. And one of our game night people, Tim, works at one of the tabletop game stores in town, Boardwalk, a lovely store. Also not a sponsor, but lovely people.
Great store. Been there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so he brought La Corsa, all one word, Grand Prix game. I was like, okay, that's cool. Let's see what we got here, and it is the weirdest race game I've ever played. I'm trying even to describe it. So the design is this sleek, just minimalist kind of thing. So it's stripped down graphics on there's a lot of card play. Stripped down graphics on the cards. It's a race game. You're supposed to be doing like a Formula One thing, but there's no like pretty, ooh, look at the pretty race cars. No, none of that. The track, and I use the word broadly, is just a wooden strip with different rectangles of beechwood, just one layer deep. Just start with one, go to like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something, and that's it. Then the different stains of beechwood will indicate, where you are on the one strip of board. It's really lovely in this kind of austere way that feels like a high-end like toy or game from Europe in like 1957 or something. Just really, retro, contemporary modern kind of thing. So the game is sort of like, it's weird, but it feels like playing War, right? The card game where you're just like flipping cards up. But you've got choice, so it's not quite like that. So that's good. So maybe it's kind of a simultaneous little trick taking. Anyway, what you do is you challenge the player's card that's in front of you. Like you don't get a lot of choice there. You just like, you're going to pass the card in front of you. That's it. You both take a card from your hand. sometimes you take 2 cards depending, but we'll move past that. You lay it down. Once they're both down, you flip them over. Highest card wins. And so you either pass the person who's in front of you or you stay where you were. That's it. So this weird short linear track, you either leapfrog ahead or you stay where you are. The decks are 13 cards and they're suited. And so you pick one suit for each player and then you shuffle them all together. Then you deal out all the cards. And there you go. You're in front of me. I'm going to challenge. Oops. I won. Yay. I go forward. Nope, I didn't. I stay where I am. And you run through until somebody can't play or 2 people can't play. And then the round is done. You kind of see, ideally what you do is you play like 7 or 8 of these because they go really quick. And you score points based on where you were positioned. And after that many games, ta-da, we see who wins. Again, it's just a strip. You're not like moving around. They're just doing these cards. And the aesthetics are really pleasing. And it does go really quickly. It doesn't get a lot of love on the Geek. There's like not a lot of people who engage with it, but people who are engaged with it just really seem to do a deep dive. But again, it is the weirdest race game I'd ever played. I got a note from Tim earlier today, actually, saying, yeah, that was probably the worst way to play La Corsa with like 4 new players and trying to figure it out. But so he played it again recently. I was like, oh yeah, what much better. But I mean, it's really pretty, something to look at. I don't know that it's still in print at the moment. But
yeah, I see that Noble Knight's got a copy for like $90, which implies
it's a secondary market. Yeah.
I'm looking at, there was a guy who either 3D printed or made a expansion set, which is basically he made an oval where each
right
black, white, whatever, or gray, and that was from 2003. So yeah, it's been out for a while.
And it's I mean, yeah, it goes quickly though, which was nice, and it was just kind of weird. Like, are we playing war? Maybe it's just a 2-person trick taking at one shot. I don't know. But Tim was like, "This is gonna go quick." It's like, okay, cool, and it did. It lived certainly up to that promise. I was like, oh man, we all have 13 cards. This is gonna take a minute. Nope, it went very quickly. So, and it's really lovely. It does really feel like it came from a different era. You'd want those nice little chairs, the little sling with the little leather and just, tubes of bright metal there. So it's lots of glass. I don't know. It felt very much of an era, and it is rules light, moves quickly. Yeah, that's La Corsa. Yeah, and I guess let's see. There's got to be a designer on this thing. Mark Haskins.
Yeah,
which does not sound like an Italian name at all, but
nope.
Has a thing for Formula One. So, yeah.
So, when we were down in the Dominican Republic, I took the bag or the box and we loaded it up with Wingspan, of course. I already mentioned that. We actually got to play that with a couple and teach them, which was fun. Kind of sitting there in we were at the Hyatt Ziva. There's this big resort. There's then in Punta Cana, there's 2 Hyatts that are combined together, the Ziva and the Zilaria. The Zilaria is kid friendly. The Ziva is adults only.
Okay.
But the adults can go over the kids side. The kids side can't go over the adult side.
All right.
But in the adult side, there's this area where you have a bar and a coffee bar. And there was a nice little setup in between. And so we would park there because you had a great view of the ocean. You were under the shade. You had a great breeze going through. And you had access to coffee and alcohol.
Awesome. Sounds lovely.
So the last game we played was the Wingspan, where we taught it to a couple that were friends of ours they were like, yep, we want to learn this game.
Awesome.
And, so that game was done with all of us enjoying French 75s while we taught Wingspan. And
Tasty.
yeah, very much so. Anyway, but we've talked enough about Wingspan on this game. So just the two other games that we took Parks, didn't play it. Took Marrying Mr. Darcy because we'd always like to have a card game handy, and
Sure.
ended up not playing that either. And we took Point City, which we ended up not pulling out. But we did pull out the two other games, Isle of Cats Duel,
Yeah.
because what we would do is we would go down to the spot, and we knew that there were some couples that said that they wanted to play games with us, but I was not going to be that guy that was like, we're all here at this resort, you must come play a game with us.
Play a game with me, damn it. Right.
We're like, we're just going to play our game. If you show up and you want to play a game, when we're done, we'll do that, So we would take the games down with us, or at least, we would take them a subset.
Sure.
Because I also took Rock Hard 1977. That was the big hefty one.
That is.
We ended up not playing that either. That happens. You're
Yes.
there for 4 or 5 days, So we did Isle of Cats Duel. Very faster gameplay. You're done in 30 minutes. 2 players.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you have an island, and the island has like 10 to 12 slots or whatever, and you're putting down a cat, a card, a cat, a card, a cat, a card, kind of thing. And so you're making moves, and you can only move so many spaces, and there's certain rules that the fish maybe let you go more than the spaces, etc. So it's a completely different game mechanic as you're allowing you to pick up what you might need to fill up your boat.
Okay.
Treasures and get lessons and things like that. And it plays fast, but it honors the original game. We both, Dale won, of course. And,
Okay.
but we both ended up with positive scores.
That's good.
Even though and it was interesting. It was very balanced in the sense that she got some things that I couldn't have gotten. I got some things that she couldn't have gotten. There were like major bonuses that got us out of the negative.
Okay.
But she just ran away with it. I mean, it was like
Wow.
30-point difference. But this came out by Frank West as the designer. Artist is Frank West and Dragalisco, publisher City of Games. Dale and I, we talk a lot about looking for games that are just ideally for 2 people. And this is a great game for that. We loved it. I really like that.
Awesome.
Love this game. We love Isle of Cats. It's a much longer game when you play the game, right? And it's a longer setup just to get going.
Sure.
Even with all the ways that you can, put it away and pull it out. But this dual version is just great for a 2-person, hey, let's play a quick game. It takes 30 minutes to play, and
nice.
It's
I see that it still has the you should put a cat here inside the box, so that this one seems to be for a kitten. That's adorable.
It's for a kitten, and it also comes with an O-Shack that you're moving around, and so it's just it's well thought out.
Yeah.
And it expands the universe of Vesh.
Yeah.
Vesh.
I don't know. Yeah. No, I think that's right.
Vosh was one of our D&D players that Roberta played.
That's right.
Vesh is the evil, because Vosh is a paladin, so not evil, right?
Right. Not evil. By definition.
By definition, yeah, okay. And then
yeah. No. I was going to say, and you've got this other duo thing here.
The other one was Everdell Duo, and similar kind of thing. It was far more accessible. You have all the, and you know how in Everdell you have to divide up the bits and put them in locations. This, you throw them in a community pile.
Oh, nice.
And there's the duo game. There's the campaign booklet, so you can actually play the campaign booklet. We just did the game.
Okay.
And then there is a solo mode. So you can play competitively, you can play cooperatively, or you can play solo. And it's got the cards are pretty much the same cards that you would expect. Okay. Same kind of thing. We built our, we probably made some mistakes because there were some things that I think are true in the base game and in this game, but we didn't realize it. We had made some decisions. So, for example, if you have the innkeeper and you get the inn, you can play them together.
Oh, okay.
That's in the base game. quite did it the right way in this game because it was more like the cards had to be of the same suit. Which
Ah, okay.
it was those there were some nuances like that that we still have to clarify,
Okay. That makes
but
sense.
same kind of thing. 1 to 2 player, 30-minute game. It was perfect for where we were.
Not a big giant tree that takes up a bunch of visual space.
Oh, much smaller. Think in my case, I had Parks, Duo, and Olive Cats stacked up that were taking up the little bit of space in the case after I had Wingspan and Rock Hard 1977.
Okay.
So the height of those 3 games equaled the height of the 2 games, if you will. And
Okay. Yeah.
a square versus the bigger square,
Right.
which made room for my wife's curlers. Clearly, I didn't need them.
You
And
just glue them on wherever you'd like there.
the SPF 1000.
Oh yeah. I'm with you there.
So anyway, so yeah, it was kind of fun. And then, but what was really cool is that, we were playing both of the games. We had people that would wander by and say, "What are you guys doing?" And somebody's like, "Oh, I love the base game.
Oh, that's cool.
I've played Everdell. I didn't know this existed." Actually, one of the baristas in the coffee shop came over and started talking to us about Everdell. Then we got into a discussion around tabletop games, and this gentleman, he lives in the Dominican Republic. He's from the Dominican Republic. He's in a D&D group in the Dominican Republic. And
Nice.
but it was interesting because we were talking about it, and I was talking about being the DM, and he was talking about playing a cyberpunk tabletop game, and he's like, and he had an accent. I'm not going to do the accent because I don't want to be rude. He was like, but then I asked the master if I could do something. And I was like, I don't know if I would feel comfortable being master. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like DM fine,
Mm-hmm.
but just the way he said it, I almost had to stop and think a minute. What did he mean by that?
Right.
Is that something in cyberpunk? And then they were like, oh, no. That's just culturally how the dungeon master is referred to.
Oh, that's wild.
So that
Yeah. That's a topic that's really interesting to me too. Like D&D is all over the world. How do different people approach all of these different roles and how it works? And yeah.
So it's sort of an interest. I hadn't thought about it, and then then you're presented with it, and it was like, oh, okay.
That's a thing. Yeah.
But it was really funny too because this one guy I work with, or he's with the company,
Mm-hmm.
and he came up and he was talking to us, and he asked me if I was with the company, and which was funny because that morning, that when you do these trips, there's always like a half a day of business that you got to do.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
And I was on a panel where I was speaking about artificial intelligence and some of the projects that we have going on in the world of generative AI and
Mm-hmm.
and agentic AI. And it was a pretty big panel because it's a very hot topic right now.
Oh yeah.
The guy's like, "Are you at the company?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. Did you not see me on the stage earlier today?"
I was having ChatGPT write fart jokes for me. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah.
Well, that might have been true. Then he was like, well, my favorite game's Terraforming Mars, and I was already in. I had perhaps had a French 75.
Right.
It's kind of in a sarcastic mood, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the wannabe Catan on Mars." Oh, dude, the look he gave.
Oh, that's awesome.
We did not get into an argument of
That's pretty good though.
sort of. But I'll tell you, there was another guy in my company that came down, and he saw us playing. He's like, "Wait a minute." And he's like, "I was going to do this in the room, but now I'm coming down here with him." And he brought his some Warhammer minis and some paint.
Oh,
So his box had the paints in it,
wow.
and mine had the games. And so he was out there working on some Warhammer games, and he was like, "I had no idea there's such a gaming."
Didn't know there was going to be a geek fest. Hell yeah. All right. I'm here for it.
Well,
Yeah.
we are in technology, so.
Well, okay. So that makes, yeah. Fair enough.
But anyway, 2 fun games. I'll probably get in deeper on those coming up.
Yeah.
But I I like this whole idea of taking a game that we know and making it a duo.
Splendor Duo is sitting there in the corner, and I saw Azul Duo is out. So there's a whole thing. I guess, yeah.
So I am sort of back on paying attention to Kickstarter kick.
Okay, awesome.
I did
I
back.
see. Yeah, I see this.
I backed Artistry, which is the
Hmm.
same people who did Botany.
All right. And that has got glorious Art Nouveau design work there. Good
Yeah,
Lord have mercy, that's beautiful. Okay, yeah.
it was the. They do beautiful games. They really do.
Clearly.
They do beautiful games, and they're the Botany and the expand not the expansion, but the sequel that they
All
did.
right.
Um, the Fleur, the French game, the Fleur de. I'm looking it up right now. I didn't come prepared. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, they've got all of it with Alphonse Mucha.
Le Fleur.
And yeah.
No, wait, yeah, Le Fleur. That was it. Le Fleur Extravagant Gardens in Rococo, France, because that's another Rococo.
Hmm.
Le Fleur was the sequel to Botany, and now Artistry is the sequel to those.
Yeah. Yeah. They've clearly got let's find something a really design heavy era and go with it.
Yeah. And
Ooh. The
then
jewelry box edition is super. Wow.
I what
That's
did
amazing.
I pledge? Hold on. I didn't go full boat.
Yeah, I would
I
expect
did
that's
the
a lot of
I did,
boat.
yeah, I did the deluxe edition.
Ah,
And it was like $75 and you got a few other things.
sure.
Yeah, no, the jewel I couldn't justify.
Couldn't justify that kind of coin. Yeah, I mean,
I could probably rationalize it. I just couldn't justify.
these are key distinctions. Yeah.
Well,
Man. Okay, yeah.
I'm in a position where I'm running out of space to put board games.
Well, there's that.
So
All
anyway,
right. There's little artistry with the cats, so I'm with you there too. That looks good. Now
yeah.
so the one that I have this is Propolis that just closed like minutes ago, 2 days maybe. And I hadn't dived into a whole lot of Kickstarter, but this one, so this is from Flat Out Games. It's the people who brought you Cascadia, Calico, Point Salad, Point City, all that kind of stuff. So we like their people. Um, so the Kickstarter was for both Point Galaxy and Propolis, and you could buy them both, but I didn't feel like I needed to make my Point City pointier. So I just went with Propolis. Also, Laura has a thing for bees, so we went with the bees. Um, and I mean, I love Cascadia, Calico, Point City. I love them all. Calico, though, hates me with the fiery passion of a wet cat. So I don't play it. Laura likes to play it. She'll bring it out for people, and they're like, "Ooh, I love it." I'm like, "This thing hates me," so I'm not gonna. But anyway, got my attention. So Propolis it's a small box, because Flat Out Games.
Mhm.
Multi-use cards again. Gotta love those. Sort of the Point City stuff, right? You've got a building on one side, a resource or whatever, on the other kind of thing. So they're leaning into their brand. Um, you play little meeples out. They call them beeples. I have a hard time with that, but anyway, that's what they call them. Um, and you put your little bees out. And this you can play your workers, get the thing. You can then reuse your workers to get the reward again, or you can just pull them all back to redistribute. And there's also kind of an area majority thing going on. So if you've got you've got the more bees in a row than anybody else, and the row is full, then good things happen for you. Um, what I thought was interesting about their model here is that it's sort of what like Stonemaier was doing before they decided we're not going to be doing Kickstarter anymore, which was basically we've got the game. Here are the Kickstarter bonuses you're going to get, and you're getting them from the beginning. Like, here's the cool stuff we're doing. That's it. There's no there's no stretch goals, none of that. We've got it all done. We just kind of want to know what our baseline order needs to be. So they're expecting to fulfill by August. And so my guess is they have the whole thing done. They have it all, like all the files they need, and all they're going to do is send it, to a factory in China and say, okay, we thought we were going to order 10,000. We're going to order 20. Go.
Well, it's interesting. If you go to Miniature Market, you can pre-order for $20
Nice.
for Propolis.
Yeah.
It's like the regular price is going to be $25, which I think is good because so many games, they hit that $50 plus mark.
Yeah.
And I think that excludes people.
And I think part of what Flat Out does is they do the smaller games, right? I mean, Point City is a little bitty box. I mean, it's not tiny. It's not like you're playing Oh My Goods or something. But it's more like the kind of box you get for a shuffle, right? And you've got your cards, maybe a couple of other little things, and then that's it. You just run with it. And yeah, I like, and there's a lot of game for what they do in these smaller boxes. And it's not the 50 plus. And I think you're right. It absolutely prices a bunch of people out. But you still get a good flavor of what this kind of stuff, what these kind of games can do. So yeah. So
Well,
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I think about it this way. I mean, we don't go to the movies,
True.
and I don't think a couple can go to the movies these days for less than $25.
Yeah.
Because the ticket prices are what, like 15%, $15 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
12 to $15, right?
Yep.
And then if you go and if you get popcorn or anything, then you're at $50 anyway. And and at least I feel like with a board game, if I'm spending 25 to $50, I can watch that movie over and over again and I don't get bored with it,
Mm-hmm.
So we don't go to movies, but we buy board games.
And you can play them if the lights go out.
Did that sound like a rationalization?
It did, yeah. No, it's but no, and I think people, I mean, we talk about this a lot, right, in the community too, of you know, what's the ROI? What are the minutes of entertainment that I'm going to get out of this? And I think and so that's one way to do it. Another thing is to talk about, I think, the ways that it's new. Like if you're playing a decent game, if you're playing Candyland, the only thing that's new is how you shuffle the cards. That's it. And otherwise, it's going to be right. But with something like Propolis or Artistry or whatever else we've been talking about this afternoon, you're going to get a novel experience each time you open the box, right? And so you get a new story. People rewatch movies. God knows, I love to rewatch movies and reread books. This is fine. You get to enjoy a story well told again, and you might see or react to different things, but it's the same story happening in the same sequence. And this is not. It's going to be different depending on who you're playing it with and what expansion you decide to add. So, yeah, I'm very interested in how games do that.
So we're going to bookend today with sort of where we started. We talked about the demise of the Hasbro Dungeons and Dragons virtual tabletop. And we're going to close with one of the most successful Kickstarters in the history of Kickstarter that is really sort of the new D&D in many respects. The folks at the Arcane Library, makers of Shadow Dark, who are very popular with this very much like an original Dungeons and Dragons advanced editions kind of gameplay, but
Yeah.
modern customs, I guess is a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
They have just come out with a new Kickstarter called The Western Reaches. And you have to understand that Arcane Library, I believe, is just maybe a couple, maybe 2 to 4 people. It's not a big company.
No, it looks like it's
And today,
Kelsey Dion.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it might just be her. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
she's probably got other people around her at this point. She'd have to. Good Lord.
yeah, it's very small. But the thing about it is, this is raised to date. It's got 10 days to go. Almost $1.8 million. Think about that. I mean, when Critical Role did theirs and they blew the roof off with that, that was like to see a cartoon. This is a book, and I've got the original Shadow Dark, and this is just sort of that experience. This is like buying the modules,
Yep.
and they're giving you new ways of thinking about gameplay, and they've got it says in the Reaches you could play as a painted witch,
Right.
an armored knight, a silent monk, a scarred pit fighter, a quick-witted explorer, or a seafaring warrior. Now, as I said those things, and you think about the group that we played with,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't you see each one of our people taking on one of
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the
Absolutely.
Rose? I did not call you a scarred pit fighter.
No, and it looks, I mean, I love this idea of the OSR movement anyway. And I like the sort of update of a go again, old school kind of stuff, right? But and I like part of the leaning into that OSR vibe is these books all look, they're all in black and white for the interior art is all black and white. Um, it's real stripped down in the ways that you expected from those early versions of D&D and Gamma World or, Traveler, all of these, right? And it's just looks fantastic. With much better art, though. I mean, I'll say that too. They had competent artists doing these as opposed to, oh man, whoever was doing that stuff back in the day. But it still has the same sort of weird, here's a lizard fighter, on the cover. You're like, okay, that looks a little weird, but it's well drawn, so that's nice.
Yeah, I got the what did I get?
But it's got all the sort of thing, like it's got the, spell cards, right? And here's an
Yeah.
extra map that you can give the players that doesn't have all the cool stuff or the, important bits on it, right? Just where are you going to go? Point over here. Um, Things that you would expect after playing RPGs for 50 years, people would have said, let's make this better. And I like that it feels, I mean, they even talk about it as a sandbox, uh,
Hmm.
where you can just kind of move through it and yeah, so if that's your vibe, that feels perfect.
Yep. No, I think it's going to be a good a good thing for the industry. I think it's going to take us to a new spot, and that's going to be great.
Yeah. No, it looks super fun. And it's amazing that this is just, yeah, uh this woman had an idea and she has done amazing work with it.
Yep, yep. And I think that she's it was interesting. I think Professor Dungeon Master did a really nice job of sort of talking about her as sort of this next phase of oh, what's the right way, like D&D,
Hmm.
so,
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm excited about this. Wait and see when it comes out, but yeah, the Arcane Library, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
that looks awesome.
10 more days to go.
I know. And I keep every time I go back, it seems to spin the dial up a little bit more. So,
Yeah,
whew.
for sure.
I love this. It's a 1.7, 1.8 million out of a $10,000 goal.
Yeah. Yes, he's
We should all be so lucky.
still. All right, well, that's all I got.
That's all I got, sir.
Well, and we'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. I'll get some of these episodes out, the previous episode that is unreleased and this one, and then we'll
Awesome.
recording in a couple of weeks. And as per usual, I am Joe Mahaffey. I am not bored. I'm board gaming.
I'm James Engelhardt, and I'm hoping that all your tiebreakers break your way.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.